It's funny how y'all over there trying to diagnose my child. He is okay. Pray for his little cold to go away. What y'all want to see the medicine take? No, none of your business. You feel me? Like y'all just overly doing too much on this live. They say Chrisean finna be on the run because somebody was able to send pictures to the police department of Chrisean's junior genital parts, and they said he was bleeding from his diaper. She allegedly has not been taking him to his hernia surgeries, so they're not up to date as well. He also has severe diaper rashes. I worship you, Father. I worship you, Father.
Now that's poison. No, I'm not good. I'm not good. You man, you got it right. Are you on the phone? Hold on, sit. Are you on the phone? Not with the baby in here.
Sorry, guys. What are we doing? What are we doing today, Chrisean?
What are we doing? While the baby was being made and did nothing. You did nothing. You watched her. You watched her because you were scared she was in control of the money. I wouldn't have gave a about that money. I'd have snatched her ass up and took her to home and made sure she at least got the mental help and counseling that she needed during her pregnancy so that she wouldn't have to regret it for the rest of her life. But don't point the finger at me. Because I ain't never smoked no weed, drunk no liquor. I never did nothing while I was pregnant. I took my vitamins every day, even though they made me nauseous. I fought for my kids to be.
Nobody warned the internet that today's scroll would come with a lump in the throat and a pit in the stomach. 1 second it was memes and nonsense. The next second people were frozen, staring at their screens like they'd accidentally tuned into a live broadcast nobody was supposed to see. This wasn't a staged meltdown or a clout-chasing rant. This felt raw, frantic, and uncomfortably real, the kind of moment that makes even the most desensitized viewers whisper, "Yo, this feels bad." Chrisean Rock's name started trending. Not because of drama, not because of beef, but because fans swear they heard panic, real panic, the kind that doesn't wait for good lighting or a clean caption. Suddenly, timelines were filled with one question repeating like a glitch in the Matrix. Is something seriously wrong? And when the words "please help" hit people's ears, it was game over. The internet snapped to attention like a fire alarm. Went off in a crowded building. This didn't feel like reality TV. This felt like a scene Netflix would refuse to air. The Kardashians could never. And as clips spread faster than facts, one thing became terrifyingly clear. Once panic goes viral, there's no rewind button. It didn't arrive with a warning label or a dramatic countdown clock. It dropped like a glass shattering in a quiet room. One moment, timelines were doing what timelines do. And the next, people stopped mid-scroll because something about the energy felt wrong. Not messy, not loud, wrong. Chrisean Rock wasn't in her usual mode. No sarcasm armor, no clapback cadence. Just a voice that sounded rushed, thin, and cracked in a way that made even seasoned internet skeptics pause and say, "Hold on." That pause mattered, because in a culture trained to doubt everything, hesitation is rare. Fans replayed the clip, not because it was flashy, but because it was unsettling. There was no polish, no framing, no sense of performance. It felt like the camera caught a moment that wasn't meant to be content. And once that door opens, the internet doesn't knock. Before walking in, people leaned closer to their screens, not for drama, but for answers they couldn't find. The comments ignited instantly. Some viewers swore they heard urgency that didn't belong on a live stream. Others said the fear in her voice alone was enough to raise alarms. Theories multiplied like pop-ups. Everyone became a translator of tone, a detective of pauses, an expert in reading between breaths. The internet did what it always does when uncertainty shows up uninvited. It filled the gaps with noise. Then came the phrase that flipped concern into panic. "Please help," not shouted like a slogan, not weaponized for sympathy. It sounded uneven, like the words stumbled out before they could be curated. That's when the mood shifted. Jokes stopped landing. The usual trolls slowed down. Even the loudest critics admitted something felt off. Panic doesn't need volume to be heard. Sometimes it whispers, And that whisper carries. Within minutes, the clip was everywhere. Reposts stacked on reposts, commentary pages rushed to upload with alarmist captions. Reaction channels hovered like helicopters, circling without landing. Some people begged others to stop sharing, arguing that fear shouldn't be recycled for clicks. Others insisted visibility was the only way to force accountability. Both sides yelled past each other. And the moment itself got lost in the crossfire. Old arguments resurfaced like they'd been waiting for a trigger. Parenting debates erupted. Past live streams were dragged up as evidence. Every uncomfortable headline from the past was dusted off and reintroduced as context, whether it fit or not. Supporters said panic doesn't follow a script. Critics countered. That chaos always leaves a trail. Neutral viewers just stared, trying to decide which version of reality made the least uncomfortable sense. What made it heavier was the absence of immediate clarity. No quick follow-up, no calming post to slow the speculation. And in the influencer ecosystem, silence is not empty. It's loud. Every minute without reassurance amplified the anxiety. Feeds refreshed like slot machines. Notifications were treated like updates. The lack of information became information all on its own. Accusations started flying in every direction. Some blamed the audience for watching instead of helping. Others blamed platforms for rewarding panic with reach. A few went straight to extremes, demanding intervention without evidence. Pushback came just as fast, calling that invasive and reckless. The comment sections looked less like discussions and more like courtrooms without judges, where everyone testified and nobody listened. What rattled longtime viewers was how unpolished the moment felt. No background music swelling at the right time, no clean edits to guide emotion. Just raw audio and a sense of urgency that didn't ask permission. Influencer tears are usually choreographed. This felt accidental, like someone hit go live at the worst possible moment. That's the kind of thing the internet can't unsee once it's out there. As the clip kept circulating, the tone grew darker. People stopped debating whether it was real and started arguing about what it meant. To some, it was proof of an environment that squeezes people until panic spills over. To others, it was a consequence long predicted. The same moment was used to argue opposite conclusions. And both sides spoke with absolute confidence. Facts were optional, conviction was not. Then the speculation metastasized. Armchair experts dissected tone and timing. Commentators read motives into pauses. Screenshots were treated like sworn statements. Every detail was magnified until it lost its original shape. In that noise, the initial concern blurred. The story became bigger than the clip, bigger than the people involved. It turned into a referendum on influencer culture itself. Why are vulnerable moments always public? Why does the audience feel entitled to immediate answers? Why does silence provoke more outrage than honesty? These questions floated through the chaos, but they didn't slow it down. They just added layers. The internet doesn't resolve tension. It stacks it. As hours passed, fatigue crept in, but anxiety stayed put. People waited for updates that didn't come. The absence felt intentional to some, overwhelming to others. Every new post that wasn't about the situation was dissected for subtext. Every laugh emoji became suspicious. The timeline turned into a surveillance room where everyone watched everything. Convinced meaning was hiding somewhere. By the end of that first wave, one truth was unavoidable. This wasn't a quick hit scandal destined to burn out by morning. It felt unresolved, heavy, and sticky in a way that clings to memory. The questions were louder than the answers, and the lack of clarity poured fuel on the fire instead of water. And as viewers leaned closer, waiting for the next shoe to drop, an uncomfortable thought settled in. If this was only the opening act, then whatever followed was going to be louder, messier, and impossible to ignore. Because once panic leaks onto the timeline, the internet doesn't just watch. It reacts, amplifies, and rewrites the moment until it becomes something else entirely. Once the shock settled in, the internet did what it always does best when it smells uncertainty mixed with fear. It didn't slow down, it sprinted. concern mutated into commentary morphed into outrage, and outrage got wrapped in memes like it was a holiday gift nobody asked for. The clip stopped being a moment and turned into a movement, except this movement had no leader, no facts, and a million opinions screaming over each other. Reaction channels popped up faster than fast food drive-thrus. Everyone went live at once, talking loudly and saying very little. Some hosts put on their serious face, lowering their voice like they were reporting breaking news, while still replaying the clip on loop like it was background music. Others leaned all the way into shock value, throwing words like terrifying and unacceptable around like confetti. It felt less like concern and more like auditions for who could sound the most alarmed without actually knowing anything. Celebrity reactions didn't calm the waters. They poured gasoline on them. Some posted vague prayer emojis that felt more like legal disclaimers than compassion. Others dropped cryptic captions about motherhood, responsibility, and patterns, without naming names but making it painfully obvious who they were side-eyeing. The internet decoded those posts in seconds because subtlety online lasts about as long as a Snapchat streak. Screenshots flew, captions were rewritten, and suddenly emojis were treated like sworn testimony. Then came the memes. Because nothing says modern society like turning discomfort into entertainment. Some people claimed humor was how they process stress. Others called it cruel. Both sides argued like they were fighting for the moral high ground. All while boosting the same content they claimed to hate. The memes ranged from awkwardly light to straight-up savage, and every share pushed the clip further into places it probably never belonged. Public outrage split into camps. One side insisted this was proof of everything they'd been warning about for years. The other accused critics of exploiting panic for engagement. Neutral viewers tried to stay out of it, only to get dragged in by quote tweets and replies asking them to pick a side. Parenting debates erupted like fireworks. Suddenly everyone was an expert, armed with opinions powered entirely by vibes and comment section confidence. Pop culture comparisons flooded the timeline. People said this made reality TV scandals look like dress rehearsals. Others compared it to infamous influencer meltdowns that later turned into documentaries, court cases, and apology tours. The difference, they argued, was that this didn't feel rehearsed. It felt accidental, like someone left the camera running during a moment that should have stayed private. That idea alone made viewers uncomfortable, and discomfort online rarely leads to restraint. What really pushed the chaos into overdrive was how fast empathy turned into entertainment. Thumbnails got red arrows, captions screamed urgency. Dramatic music got layered over reposts like this was a trailer for a movie nobody wanted to watch. Ads rolled, views climbed, and people started asking the questions nobody likes to sit with. Who's making money off this? Who benefits from panic going viral? Is this awareness? Or is this consumption dressed up as concern? The comment sections grew uglier by the hour. Sympathy posts were buried under insults. Accusations flew without breaks. Old clips were resurrected and treated like evidence. People connected dots that might not have even existed, narrating entire backstories based on fragments. The past was rewritten in real time to fit whatever narrative someone needed that day. Truth became flexible. Confidence became currency. Even attempts to slow things down backfired. Calls for compassion were mocked. Requests for patience were labeled enabling. Demands for accountability were accused of being performative. The argument itself became the content, feeding the algorithm exactly what it wanted. Everyone felt righteous. Nobody felt responsible. And while all this noise exploded, the original moment got quieter in the background. The panic that sparked the conversation was buried under layers of reaction. People stopped asking what happened and started arguing about what it represented. To some, it symbolized a broken system that monetizes chaos. To others, it was a personal failure playing out publicly. Same clip, completely different conclusions. What's wild is how quickly the situation became bigger than the people involved. It stopped being about one alarming moment and turned into a referendum on influencer culture. Itself, why is everything public? Why does the audience feel entitled to immediate answers? Why does silence provoke more rage than honesty? These questions floated through the chaos like ghosts, acknowledged briefly before being drowned out by the next hot take. As hours turned into days, fatigue set in. Not relief, fatigue. The kind that makes people numb. And numbness is dangerous because it's how extreme moments become normalized. What started as shocking slowly blended into the endless scroll of online drama. People joked about being desensitized, like it was a personality trait, not a warning sign. Still, the tension didn't disappear, it shifted. Viewers waited for updates like they were waiting for the next episode of a series they couldn't stow. Watching. Every new post that wasn't directly addressing the situation was dissected. Every emoji, every caption, every silence was treated like a clue. The internet turned into a surveillance room where nothing went unnoticed and everything was misinterpreted. By the end of this phase, one thing was painfully clear. The internet hadn't processed the moment. It had consumed it, chewed it up, argued about it, monetized it, and moved on emotionally while pretending it still cared. And whatever came next wasn't going to undo what had already happened. Because once outrage, memes, and speculation fuse together, they don't separate cleanly. They harden into perception. And perception online doesn't need proof to stick. It just needs repetition. And that repetition was already locked in, setting the stage for consequences nobody could rewind. When the noise finally dipped from a scream to a low, anxious hum, the damage didn't vanish. It settled in. It clung to timelines, group chats, and reputations like smoke after a fire that everyone swears is out but still smells hours later. By then, the internet had already done what it does best. It decided what this moment meant. Even if nobody could agree on what actually happened, Chrisean, Rock's public image didn't just shift. It fractured. Supporters rallied hard, framing her as overwhelmed, cornered by pressure, and trapped inside a digital fishbowl where every moment is public property to them. This was a reminder that panic doesn't ask permission and doesn't wait for perfect circumstances. Critics, on the other hand, treated the moment like confirmation bias on steroids, insisting this was the inevitable collision between chaos and consequence. Same clip, two completely different verdicts, both delivered with absolute confidence. And once the internet picks sides, nuance packs its bags and leaves quietly. Every future move became evidence. Every post got psychoanalyzed, every laugh looked suspicious, every silence felt loud. It didn't matter what she said next, because the narrative had already been written in comment sections by people who believe volume equals truth. That's the part nobody likes to admit. Once perception hardens online, facts become optional. The fallout rippled outward fast. Anyone even loosely connected to her was dragged into the conversation, whether they liked it or not. Friends staying quiet were accused of not caring. People speaking up were accused of clout chasing. There was no safe response, only wrong ones. That's the internet's favorite game. Demanding statements while punishing them immediately. It's a trap. Dressed up as accountability. Brands and platforms started moving like they smelled smoke. No public announcements, no dramatic exits, just subtle distance, quiet unfollows, reduced visibility, the kind of shifts only people paying close attention notice in the influencer economy. Controversy isn't always bad, but unresolved controversy is radioactive. Nobody wants to be attached to a story that feels heavy, emotional, and unfinished when the audience is sharpening pitchforks by the minute. What really lingered was how trust cracked. Some viewers said they were done watching, claiming the whole spectacle felt exploitative from every angle. Others leaned in harder, convinced this was just the opening chapter of something much bigger. The audience split into spectators and judges, and sometimes the same person played both roles depending on the mood of the comment section that day. The clip itself refused to die. Days later, it resurfaced in unrelated debates, referenced like a shortcut to an entire argument. People didn't even need to replay it anymore. They just mentioned it. And everyone knew exactly what they were talking about. That's when a moment stops being content and turns into a symbol. And symbols don't fade quietly. What made it unsettling was how quickly everything started to feel normal again. At first, there was shock, then outrage, then exhaustion, and exhaustion is dangerous because that's how extreme moments blend into the background noise. The internet doesn't move on because things are resolved. It moves on because something louder shows up. That doesn't erase the consequences. It just buries them under the next headline. For Chrisean Rock, the aftermath wasn't about one viral clip anymore. It was about living under a microscope that just got zoomed in permanently. Every future controversy would be filtered through this moment. Every argument would circle back here. Every defense would be compared to this reaction. That's the cost of viral vulnerability. Once people think they've seen behind the curtain, they never stop looking for cracks. And let's not pretend this didn't expose the audience too. It revealed how fast empathy turns into entertainment, how easily concern becomes consumption, and how comfortable people are demanding answers without acknowledging the pressure those demands create. Everyone wanted clarity immediately, but real life doesn't run on upload schedules. Panic doesn't resolve itself neatly for the sake of public comfort. By the end of it all, there was no clean ending, no satisfying explanation that wrapped everything up, just lingering discomfort, unresolved questions, and a collective sense that something crossed a line, even if nobody could agree which one. Some viewers swore they'd never forget how it made them feel. Others already moved on. Because attention is fragile and outrage has an expiration date. But even as the feeds refreshed and the headlines shifted, the impact stayed, quietly reshaping how people talk about her, quietly changing how audiences react to panic online, quietly proving that when fear becomes public, everyone gets involved whether they should or not. And that's the part that should sit heavy. This wasn't just another scandal. It was a reminder that the internet doesn't just watch moments like this. It amplifies them, distorts them, argues over them, and then walks away, leaving the people at the center to deal with the echo. So as the dust settled and the algorithm looked for its next meal, one question hung in the air, unanswered and uncomfortable. If this is what panic looks like when it goes viral, how many more moments like this are waiting one accidental clip away from becoming the next spectacle? Because if this proved anything, it's that the internet never forgets, and it rarely forgives. And this is where the internet pretends it's done, even though we all know it's just getting warmed up. Because if you think this story ends neatly, you haven't been paying attention to how chaos works online. Nothing closes cleanly anymore. It just pauses, reloads, and comes back louder with a new angle. Today it's panic, tomorrow it's denial. Next week it's a headline acting like this never happened. So now it's your turn. Was this a genuine moment of fear that spiraled out of control once the internet got its hands on it? Or was this another example of how social media turns private crisis into public sport? Don't dodge it. Don't dodge it. The comment section is the real courtroom, and everyone's already lining up to testify. Say what you actually think, not what you think sounds safe. If this story made you uncomfortable, good. That means it hit where it was supposed to. If it made you angry, even better, because anger keeps conversations alive long after the clips stop circulating. And if you're still here listening, you already know this channel doesn't spoon-feed narratives or play nice with half-truths. We break the chaos down, expose the madness, and let the truth sweat under pressure. Now do what the algorithm hates and the real ones respect. Smash that like button like it owes you money. Drop a comment that doesn't sound like everyone else's. Subscribe, because stories like this don't slow down, they multiply. And when the next scandal explodes out of nowhere, you don't want to be late to the conversation. This isn't where drama gets polished. This is where reality gets uncomfortable. This is celeb insanity, where the stories don't end, they escalate.